I'd like to call to order the Parks and Rec Commission meeting on this day, August 15th, 2024. It looks like we need a roll call. Am I right?
Baber? Baber? Yeah. Okay. Burnham?
Here.
Johnson?
Here.
Mazu? Walker?
Here.
Urban?
Here.
Raber?
Here.
Stidham? Thank you.
Okay, our next item is new business. Our first agenda item on the under new business is the meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Sorry. Our next item of business looks like it's a fiscal year 2025 Parks Project update with Sarah.
Good afternoon, Commission members. Happy to be here. It's my distinct pleasure today to share with you our plan for fiscal year 25. As you know, we are neck deep in our fiscal year 24 projects. A number of those will be wrapping up through the course of the calendar year. But as of October 1, our mayor and council have graciously allotted us with additional budget to continue to do awesome things across the city. So that's what we're going to go over today. This will be a combination of capital projects and major repair projects. And hopefully we can get through them. Happy to answer any questions you might have. So first and foremost, I wanted to address Alta Harris Park. Thank you to our community. We have impact fees available in fiscal year 25 to begin the build out of this park. It's a 20-acre property in Barber Valley. As you can see on the slide there, the master plan was approved in 2019, and we've just been waiting for funds to accumulate in order for us to begin developing the park. In terms of scale and size, if you wanted to think about a similar park across our system, Molinar is probably the closest. And in fiscal year 25, we will begin the effort of planning and designing the roadway improvements that will be required on Eckhart to allow us to access the site. So obviously that's probably the first thing that would need to happen functionally anyway, right? We need to be able to get to our property to install a parking lot and install the other amazing amenities that we hope to be able to do in the future. Next up, we'll have some greenbelt improvement projects this coming year. We've done a really good job, I think, over the last 5 years to identify the areas along our 25 miles of greenbelt that are in the worst condition. We base these improvement projects based on our condition score and what available budget we might be able to access in any given fiscal year. And so this coming year in 25, we'll be doing sections of Marianne Williams Park and Julia Davis Park. We're about 50% converted from asphalt to concrete. Obviously, our goal is to be 100% concrete. It's more durable. It's a smoother surface, has a longer lifespan. So over the course of the next 20 years, probably will be invested in that effort. Veterans Memorial Park improvements will commence in FY25. This was a master plan effort that we did in 2023. It took about a year. You all approved that master plan. It had great engagement from the community, from the disc golf community specifically, from the state. As you recall, we leased this property from the state of Idaho. And so it's wonderful to have impact fee dollars in order to make some improvements. The new amenities that we will be adding based on public feedback is a nature play area, a full 18-hole disc golf course. This will be, I think, our second in the city. The other 18-hole disc golf course is in Ann Morrison, and it is incredibly utilized. This sport is booming in our community. It's easy entry. Anybody can do it from ages 5 to 95. So it's good to see that we have an opportunity here to provide that amenity. This site has been home to tournaments in the past. So we've been able to work with our partners and our risk and safety team to identify an appropriate concept for the disc golf course, but it's not set in stone at this point, and we'll need to do some further work with our partners and our internal team to line out exactly where those holes will be. And then the other thing that came out of the public feedback was additional security improvements were needed with some lighting. So we'll be installing that moving forward as well. Charles F. McDevitt Sports Complex improvements. I know this is near and dear to some of our council members' hearts. This master plan was just done this last year. Again, great community involvement. We are so fortunate that when we open up surveys and we ask for input, we get a lot of engagement, and that really helps us feel confident with the suite of amenities that we have selected based on the budget that we have available, again, through impact fees. 30-acre park in West Boise. A lot of the feedback we got from the community was this is a sports complex, but we also want it to function as a park for our neighbors. So we'll be adding some skate amenities, a basketball court, pollinator garden, and a fenced dog park. That was something that folks were really excited to have at this location. And on the major R&M side, the major repair and maintenance or enhancements of existing parks, we identify those priorities based again on condition or age of infrastructure. Fairview Park has one of our oldest playgrounds. It's hard to get replacement parts for this playground because it's no longer manufactured. So we will be replacing that 20-year-old playground, both of them actually, and improving accessibility to the site. That's one of the other things we would like to do moving forward with any enhancement, is looking more holistically at these amenities to make sure that everyone can access them. So accessibility and inclusion elements will be added not just to the playground, but around to the courts and around to the bathroom. So we're really looking forward to this improvement. It's a lovely park, and I love investing in our existing parks. And I went through that kind of quickly. It's only 10 minutes, so I apologize if I was too fast. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Madam Chair, just a question for you, Sarah. A quick update on Peasley, maybe, and on the Goddard Street Park that are under construction now, and update for the commission on where those are at.
Yes, they are both under construction now, and I am accessing information. Hold on a minute. I'll start with Goddard. The pathway has been poured, and we are putting in some of the seating elements. And with any of these projects, we always run into challenges. So my team's working really hard to work with the contractor to make sure we get what we asked for. But they're both progressing really nicely. Peasley, the stairs, I think, are finishing being fabricated. We anticipate being able to open both Peasley's stair and bike runnel and the Goddard Linear Park this fall and winter. So there'll be more coming. We've got such a wonderful design and development team. I can't say enough about them. They put together really detailed plans, and they make sure our contractors use those plans to get us exactly what we need. So I'm sorry I don't have a more detailed update at this time. I didn't prep for it.
Thank you, Superintendent Arkell.
Sure.
Does anyone have any questions?
I'm also colorblind, so I can't tell the difference. Okay, so for the 500,000, is that a number that, I guess, how do you all get to that? Is that just stay pretty consistent? the things that I'm seeing or hearing from people in the community as well is just it's being used maybe differently, more commuting as well as recreation, a lot of love, and has that adjusted over the course of time?
Yeah, that 500,000 it's kind of like a matrix, right? You have a certain amount of budget that was projected for in any given year, and you try and fit in what you can within that budget. And so this for fiscal year 25, 500,000 was what we were able to identify for Greenbelt improvements. And then we pulled from projects pulled from our suite of projects lists that we know needs to be done and plugged into that budget. Moving forward, we'll probably have some flexibility, I'm hopeful, to address some of the higher ticket items, but obviously that's up to mayor and council who approve our budget. Our goal is to make sure they have the information that they need to make an informed decision on what we're asking. And so 500,000 is what we'll get for this year, but it's not going to be, necessarily 500,000 every year. It might be 250,000 one year. It might be $1 million one year. It just will kind of depend on all the other factors that go into figuring out what our budget is.
Madam Chair, Sarah, two things. One, on the very west end of the Greenbelt, where I think it's been all converted to concrete, it turned out amazing. That's one of my walking routes. So it does make a big difference versus the asphalt and the durability of it long term. Second, I just wanted to share the Boise School District. We did a project this past year that we completed at the end of June at Hillside Junior High, which is trail access to the foothills right by the tennis courts. That used to be all a dirt, messy lot, and we have turned that into an asphalted parking lot for not only for Hillside use, but for patrons for accessing trails.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I watched the construction on that and was very excited to see it happening.
Thanks again, Superintendent Urkel. And I also wanted to say, I just love that we're always looking forward at these playgrounds for inclusion and accessibility. It just makes, these places somewhere everyone can be, and I just love that. This was an informational only item, so it's not something we're voting on. So our next item on the agenda is the pool update.
Madam Chair, Commission members, thank you. And I want to also acknowledge Madam Chair for pinch hitting today. We appreciate that. She's a former president, so she can handle that as we need her to step in. I will, Commissioner Burnham, I will have Joey or Brenda send out a link to you. We did a quick presentation for council on the Greenbelt, very high level. It was more related to some of the things that Ada County was looking at doing. And we just wanted to clarify some confusion that had come out with some of the information that came out over the 4th of July weekend on speed limits and language and joint powers or grant of authority agreement between all the jurisdictions to be able to act on behalf of that jurisdiction in their own areas. So if you were chasing somebody for an issue in Garden City, you didn't have to let them go, and you could actually continue to pursue that and take care of the issue if there was an issue on the Greenbelt. So I'll have them send the link to the presentation that myself and Chief Weininger did on Tuesday for the mayor and city council. And in that presentation, you'll hear there are some other things coming forward on the Greenbelt. So we propose to bring more details, more stakeholder involvement, more really strategic planning on the Greenbelt. We recognize it is no longer the small pathway that is for recreational use only in our community, that it has a lot more usage than it did 10 years ago and 5 years ago and even 3 years ago. And so there was more of that to come. So I know that's an interest of yours. So we'll check out that link and then just stay tuned for other things coming forward.
Yeah, can I add something there? I appreciate that so much. As a city that doesn't control its own roads, like there are some things that maybe aren't as reflective of what the city would like to do. And so I just love to hear prioritization of using the spaces we do control to continue to move us forward in like our climate action plan, kind of everything, but getting people out of vehicles as much as we can to reduce congestion and all that. So yeah, I really love that you're looking at that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, Madam Chair, we'll see if we can make this work. So commission members, we did a presentation for the mayor and city council. I believe it's been about a month now, at least 3 weeks ago. Councilmember Willits was in on that meeting. It was very an interesting meeting. It was also very well, a lot of good dialogue between the council and staff. And we came away with some marching orders, but I just wanted to bring that presentation in case the commission has not seen it. I wanted to bring it forward and have you take a look at what the plans were going to council and then what the direction we did get from council after the presentation. So just a quick overview of the pools. These are two very unique pools. The design is referred to as a Bent's design. There were, depending on who you talk to, it's a moving target, but there could been as many as 80 to 90 of these pools across the country back in the 60s and 70s. Again, depending on what website you look at and who you talk to, there's as many as maybe a dozen that are still out there. There are only, again, depending on who you talk to, 3 or 4 that are actually being used that could be considered active pools or will be considered active pools. And 2 of those happen to be in the city of Boise. The design was popular because it didn't require a huge footprint to build. You went up instead of out. And the design, due to its uniqueness, was much less expensive to construct and much less expensive to maintain. So they are 2-level pool. The issue with them in today's world is our goal is full and complete accessibility for everything we have and everything we do, every facility, every program. And these 2 pools are very difficult to have total access because they do not have, because they're above ground pool, you have to have a way to get to the upper level in order to enjoy the actual water. And so that is certainly a concern for both of these pools, but they are considered very nostalgic, very historic. And with that in mind, we did set out a process where during COVID, we shut all our pools down, and we took that opportunity during COVID to really do an assessment of these 2 pools. And through that assessment process, there was a number of deficiencies that we identified. And it wasn't just ADA, that is the biggest one and the most concerning, but also there were a number of plumbing, electrical, and some structural deficiencies as well. So when all the other pools opened back up after COVID, we did not open these 2 pools up due to the significance of the deficiencies and the cost associated with bringing those up to code. And then that started the discussion, do we bring them up to code or do we construct new pools or we do some sort of hybrid in between with the 2 locations that we have? We did do a very significant community outreach, We got a lot of information from the public. We heard pretty loud and clear that the public was very interested in seeing both of the pools retained in some fashion. Mostly in that fashion was open back up, bring up to code and put water in them and let's get them back open again. So what that did is really took us forward to this past February where we asked council for some additional money. Back in 22 and 23, we came up with some very, very high level costs associated with bringing the pools up to code. And we asked council for additional funding to really sharpen the pencil on those estimates and really come up with more exact figures. I believe the figures we had back then were plus and minus 120%. So that's just very difficult to budget something that you think might be 3 million, but it could be 7 million. And so that extra 160,000 allowed us to hire a team, put a team together which was an architect, a design team, and a contractor to look at the designs, look at the feedback we got from the public, and then come up with some options that we could present to the mayor and city council for their consideration. And that took us into the July meeting. So when we did those assessments, again, overall, and this is the overall poor condition comes directly from the report that was done back in 2020. I mentioned all the code violations, safety standards. And the fact that the biggest issue to the two pools was that they would have to have some significant upgrades in order to be ADA accessible. So that our goal of having complete and total accessibility could be achieved. And even at that point, because of the fact that it is a 3 to 12 foot depth, you still do not have complete and total access at the 3 foot depth. So you would, if you had a small child, you would still have to be in the water with that child. So it wouldn't be completely accessible, even if you had, let's just say, and we'll show this in a moment, but completely new changing areas and restrooms and an elevator to get to the upper deck. You still have a 3 foot depth where new pools now either have some sort of staired area where you have a shallow end or have what's referred to as a zero depth, so that you basically can kind of walk in, at like you would on a beach. And it slowly gets a little bit deeper so that it does accommodate all abilities. Or you would have a kiddie pool component so that smaller children would have a place to go. So again, I mentioned the contractor, that was CM, a local contractor. The design specialist was Aquatic Design Group out of San Diego, and then Cushing Terrell was our architect. They went to work, took some of the analysis that had been done in 2020, did a complete different analysis on their own, combined the two, and really came up with some options that we could present to the mayor and council. There are site constraints. Both of these pools are located in what most people perceive as school property, but the city actually owns the dirt underneath the property that's located on school grounds. Go figure. But it does, it's kind of one of those weird ones. We have that at Fairmont too. We have it at a couple other locations actually. But you can see the site constraints are very considerate. There just isn't a lot of room to work with at both locations. But it's amazing what contractors can do, and came up with a couple of plans that were actually pretty acceptable in how we could utilize both sites. So the alternatives, we came back with council. Both pools have options for renovation, so both could be brought up to code, all the plumbing, the electrical, all the mechanical repaired, ADA compliance put in place. All that could be done for both pools. However, only one pool, and that's south, could actually be rebuilt on its own site. Lowell has some just that weird shape of the property, coupled with there's a flume that actually runs just right beyond the property as well, and limited space that we have at this site. The school is not a giant space like Whitney Elementary School, for example. It's pretty small, and so we really don't have a ton of access to extra space here. So we really determined in working with that design team that Lowell really didn't have an option on site. If you were going to do a new pool for that area, you'd have to find another location to be able to do a new pool. South, on the other hand, though, does have the opportunity to be able to rebuild it on that site. And again, as we presented to council, after we have now received our marching orders, we're now in the design. We're fast and furious working on designs right now. But at the time we presented this, everything's still on the table, and there's still a lot of work that needs to be done over the next several months. And again, that last bullet's important because we did ask the architect and the contractor to give us estimates that would be in that 25, 26 time range, so that they did build in an inflationary piece to this, so that hopefully we won't get surprised with something in those years that is significantly more than what we anticipate today. So the south alternatives, again, renovate the current facility, bring it up to code, add an elevator, and as one option. Another option is rebuild a new pool at that site. And we just don't use our 10-minute walk initiative for park locations or open space locations. We use it for our recreation programming as well. And so the 10-minute walk currently, where the current South Pool is located at South Junior High, we have just over 2,000 residents and 868 households that are within that 10-minute walk. So we began conversations with the Boise School District to see if there's an opportunity to go about 5 blocks roughly east, I guess, if my direction is correct, down across Overland at the corner of Owyhee and Overland, where the Whitney Elementary School is located, where they're, pardon me? It's southwest. Southwest, sorry. East, southwest. Anyway, hi, Sarah. And relocate it there where the school district was very amenable to that. Not only where they thought it was a good idea, but also they had plenty of space there. The playground area is quite large there, and their excitement was that at their attendance at that school is primarily on the south side of Overland. And so you can see what that did to our 10-minute walk is we more than doubled the number of residents that would be within that walk, within that space. So the star you see there is that was the direction from council was to move forward with South being relocated to Whitney Elementary School. And so this was just what it would look like if we rebuilt it at its current site. So this is on the existing site. The tennis courts would be, I guess, would be north of the pool. This would require building some additional structures. So everything you see on the backside of the pool would be new. It'd be a new building. So you'd have new locker rooms. You would have a family locker room area, chemical pool rooms, and then you see the elevator in purple down at the bottom. You would come in the existing lobby, and to your right would all be made right now existing. That is where the changing area is, and the restrooms are in the orange. That would be made into storage, and as you go left to the yellow, that would be the new check-in area if it was rebuilt as it exists today. And you would hit a new check-in staff area at the backside. And then you'd either take stairs up to the top or you would take the elevator to the top from that location. But all the locker rooms, everything would be located on the ground floor back in that back part of the facility. And believe it or not, it fit. We were going to, the district would have to provide us with some variance. So we were looking at 28 more feet that we felt like we were going to need to pull it off. And the district was, again, open to that if that was something we were interested in. But when we kind of came to an arrangement that it could move 5 blocks away and have a larger footprint and more access to it, does that make more sense to be able to look at that? And so, and the estimate to do this was significantly more than building a brand new pool. And part of that is it's hard to understand it. I've had to have the architect walk me through it several times because I'm like, how can you not take an existing facility and rebuild it? And it costs more than building something brand new. And he said, it's very simple. We don't know what we're dealing with here for the biggest part. So there's a huge risk that this might be less, but because it's 71 years old, and they have done some structural analysis, they're not sure what they're going to run into. And so there is a risk piece to it, number one. And number two, because of its historical and its age, the construction has to be done completely different than when you just start something brand new and build it from ground up. So there was certainly some challenges there. And that's why this one's at 9.2 million. And if you build this at Whitney on a brand new location, it's 7.4 million to be able to do that. And so, 7.8 million. This is the existing, if we took the site and rebuilt a whole new pool there, this is what that would look like with a kiddie pool component. We could build a 6-lane pool. We could have locker rooms, all the things that, but it would all be on the ground level. So this would require raising what is currently there at South and building something completely new. Whereas this one was keeping the existing pool, adding the building on the back, and making it work with a variance from the district. This would still require a variance from the district, but it would get us a 6-lane pool and also a kiddie pool component. And it does fit with almost exact same variance that we would need from the district. But again, back to, is it better to spend 7.4 million to do this here, or 7.8, and we have this new pool at Whitney Elementary, which would now be an 8-lane pool. We would still have the small kiddie pool component, all the locker rooms and locker space, but this gives us a larger footprint. So now we can add some significant shade structures on the decking, whereas this design did not give us much space around the decking to be able to actually do a lot of shaded area. But this one, we have plenty of space to be able to do that. We also have a lot more parking here because we can use the existing school parking. This is in that northwest corner, unless Angie tells me something different. It's in the northwest corner of the of Owyhee and Overland. So it'd be right on Overland, but we would come south to the parking area, closer to the parking lot, and then create access from the parking to the pool area. But then that way we can utilize the parking that exists at Whitney, and we don't have to add any additional parking here. And so 7.4, if we rebuild at south, 9.2 if we just upgrade everything, or 7.8 if we build a brand new pool at another location with more household access, larger footprint. And with an 8-lane pool, we can also do a lot more programming. We can offer a lot more activities there and swim team competitions as well. So I'm just kind of kicking through this. So if you have any questions, please let me know. We'll move on to Lowell. And as you saw several slides ago, Lowell really has one alternative because of the site constraints we have there, and that is just to renovate the pool. So that was our recommendation to the mayor and council, was to take the existing facility and bring it up to code. And you see the number of residents actually is pretty good. We have some pretty good impact in this area with over 3,200 residents within that 10-minute walk. It is in a historic district overlay, so it does have some deeper restrictions on what you can and can't do at that location. And so we'll have to work closely with our historic folks in order to make sure that the things that we're doing to the pool will fit what still fits into this historic district overlay. So the only option is to renovate, and it's similar to the south. We just flipped the storage side at the bottom with the lobby. So you still come into the lobby area. You'll go now to the right. And when you get to the back side, you will have access to both the men's and women's locker room, as well as a family locker room. There will be stairwell up to the top deck or an elevator. Storage on the other side. And again, this will have all the other, chemical rooms, storage rooms, all the things you saw on the south model will all be in this back part on this model as well. This does require us to move the community garden that the school has at this location. And we've walked the site with the principal and with deputy superintendent. And we've got a plan on how to move that for them. So we're just going to push it back towards State Street a little bit more and take up a little more room back there. Also working closely with the school on construction, because this is going to be happening during school time. So we feel like all our staging is in place on how we'll make this work at a school that's pretty small. There's not a lot of parking there. There's not a lot of area there for, to stage a large construction area. But we think we've got that taken care of. It again, 9.2 million, which is essentially the same as bringing south up to code as well. And then we asked to get closer on this plus or minus. That's 15%. That's pretty good. And I think on a new construction, it's plus or minus 10% on the new pool at Whitney. So we feel pretty good about the costs that we will be moving forward with. So the direction for City Council was renovate and bring the current low pool up to code. At South, it's relocate that pool to Whitney Elementary School, and then seek community input on the reuse of the existing South Pool structure. At the same time, we'll also be seeking public input on the components on what Whitney will look like, the new Whitney pool. So we'll be doing community outreach on the different amenities we'll be proposing that will fit within the budget, and get that input from the community on what they would like to see. Right now, at a high level, it would have some sort of slide in the large 8-lane area. That's probably the only amenity you would have there. And then the kiddie pool will have a number of different toys that we will have there as well. So there isn't a ton of input we'll be seeking, but more of just really making the community aware of what we're doing is a big part of this, and just seeking their feedback on what they would like to see. So with that, open to any questions, concerns, comments.
Director Holloway. This is a project of my heart. I live right next to South Pool. I'm probably less than a minute walk. We haven't had a pool in our neighborhood for many years. It's been a big point of conversation. My kids used to be lifeguards there. A story I tell about South Pool is when I first tried to go, I had a 4-year-old, 2-year-old, and 3-month-old. I wasn't sure how this pool was set up. We got to the pool. I was alone. I had these 3 very small children who all, could not swim and were under the 3 feet of the water. I had to precariously perch them on the edge of the pool as I climbed down with my 3-month-old in my arms and then have the other 2 jump in. And it was not a fun mom day. So I think accessibility in all terms is wonderful, including especially the ADA accessibility. But I also think this idea of having Whitney and including double the people who can walk within 10 minutes, kids who can get there on their own, as you know, if they're 9 years old, they can go there by themselves. That's a great resource for kids to go to when they don't have care at home during the summer. It's just such a fantastic thing for our community. I'm so excited for these neighborhood pools to come back into these neighborhoods and get them going. I also wanted to point out, I listened to your presentation to council and their decision. And you mentioned that we have not had a new pool since Ivy Wild. And my kids have also worked at Ivy Wild, and Ivy Wild is about 26 years old. Is that right?
1998. Madam
Yeah.
Chair.
So it's just exciting to get a new cool feature pool in Boise and have a swim team there again. I'm excited about that too. So excited. We're moving forward with these plans, and thanks for presenting it to us as well. Any questions?
Oh, sure. I have a quick question. These are gorgeous pools, so I'm very, very excited about it, and I totally support what has been selected for the pools. And I was curious about South Pool, and did you have to consult with the SHPO, with the Preservation Office? And when you reuse it, will it be some kind of mitigation because it's a historic structure? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner, yes to all that you have inquired about. We will work closely with the historical folks to make sure that I think the biggest concern that we're hearing from them is what you do to not disrupt the integrity of what it looks like now. And I don't know what that will end up being. We have not made any speculation internally. We will, obviously, there'll be key stakeholders in anything that moves forward. There'll also be key stakeholders in our upgrade of Low Pool as well. In some fashion, though, particularly on the Low site, it is what it is. We have to make it ADA accessible. We have to add the facilities on the backside in order to make it accessible for everyone. We have to upgrade. We're essentially gutting the entire pool and redoing the entire mechanical system in it. That has to be done. And that's why that 9.2 million is such a higher figure, is that there has to be some heavy consideration because of the age, because of the historical nature of it, that all those factors weigh in. But yes, we will be, at this point, we have not started or even set a timeline on when we will engage the community on South. Right now, our focus is on getting designs done on Lowell and Whitney, get those out, and then I think we'll be revisiting what we're going to do with South. But I think to calm everyone's nerves, the mayor and council, and I won't speak for Councilmember Willits on the other side of me here, but I think they have no appetite to see this building get tore down and have committed that it's staying right now, and we'll address the issues with South Pool down the road.
Madam President, Dr. Holloway, I'd just like to echo some of that. There was a lot of angst at City Council about any sort of effort to tear down the historic building. And from a cost perspective, it made a lot of sense. And from an accessibility perspective, to move. But I think it would rip out our hearts if there was any sort of effort to tear it down, because it's so unique, it's so historic. And once those structures are gone, they're gone. And so that was actually part of the motion and the discussion, to be very clear about moving the pool did not mean tearing down the existing structure. There would need to be a separate conversation, and that there was not an appetite to do that. What it could turn into, we don't know, but it is definitely a value at City Council to preserve it.
Madam Chair, Doug, I just wanted more comment than anything. I actually grew up on the bench area in my childhood, attended Monroe, South and Bora, and off of Waihe on Agate Court. And so I grew up enjoying that South Pool. And I remember the days of the high dive and all that when it was there. And 12 feet is very deep. I'm just excited that one, preserving it, but also finding a new location for that area and the accessibility for many more households. And I also for swim teams, I think, I know from my role as an athletic director in the Boise schools, and there is always a shortage of pools and access. So adding another pool that can meet the needs of club teams and also high school teams is going to be awesome.
Madam Chair, and commission members, I just want to give a shout out to the district because, wow, I mean, people have asked me over and over, like, well, how much are they charging for the property? And I'm like, well, they're not charging anything for it. They see it as a community benefit. They see it as a neighborhood benefit. And I think I heard from one of Commissioner Walker's colleagues that Whitney is one of the most walked to or bike to schools in the system with 500, 400. I mean, it's pretty sizable enrollment. And so, they saw it as an opportunity as a district, like this is an amenity for the school. This is something that's going to make our school better and our neighborhood around the school better. So I really appreciate that. It just, speaks to the volumes of the partnership that we have with the district. So all that's good. We just got work to do now.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, and that was an informational item as well, so no motions needed. And then
No session.
no executive session, so I will call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you online, Scott. Thank you, Liz.
Take care.